In 1816, something terrifying happened to the planet. The sun vanished behind a strange gray sky. Crops died. Snow fell in the middle of summer. And across Europe and America, millions began to starve. But what caused this global catastrophe? The answer begins with the most powerful volcanic eruption in human history. In April 1815, a volcano in Indonesia awoke with unimaginable fury. Mount Tambora exploded with a force the world had never seen. The eruption was so violent that the mountain lost nearly half its height. Ash, rock, and gas were blasted more than 40 kilometers into the sky. Entire villages were buried instantly. Tens of thousands died in the immediate disaster. But the true destruction had only just begun. The explosion sent massive amounts of volcanic ash and sulfur gas into the atmosphere. These particles spread across the entire planet. High above the Earth, they formed a gigantic veil around the globe. Sunlight struggled to reach the surface. Temperatures began to fall everywhere. The following year became known as the year without a summer. In June of 1816, snow fell in New England. Rivers froze in the middle of July. Farmers watched their crops die in the fields. Wheat, corn, potatoes, everything failed. Across Europe, food shortages turned into a full-scale catastrophe. Bread prices skyrocketed. Riots erupted in the streets. Entire communities began to starve. Historians estimate that millions of people were affected by the crisis. Families abandoned their homes in search of food. Many never survived the journey. But in one place, the strange dark skies inspired something unexpected. In Switzerland, a group of writers gathered near Lake Geneva during the gloomy summer of 1816. Among them was a young woman named Mary Shelley, trapped indoors by endless storms and cold weather. She began writing a terrifying story, a story that would later become one of the most famous novels ever written. Frankenstein. Eventually, the volcanic ash slowly disappeared from the atmosphere. The catastrophe did not end in 1816. Across the world, entire societies were pushed to the brink. Harvest after harvest continued to fail. Food became scarce, and desperation spread faster than the cold. In North America, thousands of families abandoned their farms. Entire communities left New England, moving west in search of better land. Many of them would settle in places that were almost empty at the time. Places like Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. The volcanic eruption of a distant mountain had just changed the map of America. But hunger was only the beginning. Malnutrition weakened millions of people. And across Europe and Asia, disease began to spread. One of the worst outbreaks was typhus. Cities filled with refugees, hospitals collapsed, and the death toll continued to rise. The crisis also shook the global economy. Food prices soared to levels never seen before. In many cities, governments struggled to control riots. Armies were sent into the streets, but nothing could stop the collapse of the harvests because the problem was happening in the sky. For months, sunsets around the world turned strange colors. Deep red, orange, and sometimes purple. Artists began painting these eerie skies. Today, scientists believe many famous paintings from that era captured the volcanic dust still floating high in the atmosphere. Even nature itself had become a witness to the disaster. At the time, people had no idea what caused the catastrophe. Many believed it was punishment from God. Others feared the end of the world. But slowly, scientists began to study the atmosphere. They started to realize something extraordinary. A single volcanic eruption could change the climate of the entire planet. Over time, the volcanic ash slowly began to disappear. The skies cleared, sunlight returned, temperatures gradually rose again. By 1818, the worst of the crisis had passed. But the scars remained. Millions had suffered, thousands had died, and entire societies had been transformed forever. Today, Mount Tambora is remembered as the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded history. The explosion released more energy than thousands of nuclear bombs. It altered global climate, triggered famine across continents, changed human migration, and even helped inspire one of the most famous novels ever written. All from a single eruption on a remote island in Indonesia. History often remembers wars and kings, but sometimes the greatest events in human history come from nature itself. In April of 1815, a mountain exploded, and for a moment, the entire world went dark. The year without a summer, 1816, the most dramatic climate disaster in modern history.